Welcome to Nightmare Fuel Stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy the stories. Wait 3 seconds, I should have noticed it sooner. The signs were all there, scattered across months of binge watching like breadcrumbs leading to a house made of bones. But when you're drowning in content, when algorithms feed you exactly what you want to see, it's easy to miss the forest for the trees. Easy to ignore the impossible coincidences until they're staring you in the face with your own eyes. It started with StreamVault, the newest platform that promised content so personalized, it's like we're reading your mind. Their marketing was aggressive, offering 6 months free to anyone willing to take their comprehensive viewing personality assessment. 200 questions about favorite genres, childhood fears, relationship history, family dynamics. I figured it was just another data mining operation, but free TV is free TV. The first month was incredible. Every recommendation was perfect, not just good, perfect. Shows I didn't even know I wanted to watch, obscure foreign films that felt like they were made for my specific tastes, documentaries about subjects I'd mentioned in passing conversations. I bragged to my friends about finding this hidden gem of a service. That should have been red flag number 1. The second month, I noticed something odd about a show called The Apartment Next Door. It was a psychological thriller about a woman named Sarah who lived alone in a converted warehouse loft, working as a freelance graphic designer. Just like me, the protagonist had the same anxiety about deadlines, the same habit of eating cereal for dinner, the same specific phobia of elevator music that I'd developed after being trapped in one for 3 hours during a power outage. But these were common enough traits, right? Plenty of people lived similar lives, plenty of people had weird phobias. The show followed Sarah as she became convinced that someone was watching her through her windows. She'd catch glimpses of movement in the building across the street, shadows that didn't belong. The camera work was unsettling, often positioned as if we were watching Sarah from outside her apartment. I found myself checking my own windows during the tense scenes, pulling the curtains tighter. In episode 4, Sarah discovered that someone had been in her apartment. Nothing was stolen, but small things were different. Her coffee mug was in the wrong cabinet, her laptop was closed when she'd left it open. A book she'd never read was on her nightstand. I paused the show and walked to my kitchen. My coffee mug was in the cabinet above the sink. I always kept it next to the coffee maker, always. My hands shook as I opened my laptop. I'd left it open to a project I was working on, but the screen showed my desktop. And there on my nightstand was a paperback copy of The Stranger by Camus. I'd never owned that book, I'd never even read it. I told myself I was being paranoid. I'd probably moved the mug myself and forgotten. The laptop could have restarted for updates. Maybe my landlord had left the book during a maintenance visit. There were logical explanations for everything. I didn't sleep that night. The next day, I called StreamVault's customer service. After 20 minutes of hold music, a cheerful representative named Marcus assured me that their content was licensed from studios worldwide, and while their recommendation algorithm was sophisticated, all shows were produced independently. "Is there a specific concern about your viewing experience?" he asked. I couldn't explain without sounding insane, so I hung up. That evening, I started a new show called Digital Footprints. It was about a man named David who became obsessed with the idea that his streaming service was monitoring him too closely. David was a graphic designer. He lived alone in a warehouse loft. He had my exact same laptop, down to the dent in the corner where I dropped it last year. This wasn't coincidence anymore. I grabbed my laptop and started researching StreamVault. Their parent company was Nexus Entertainment, which was owned by a subsidiary of companies that led nowhere. No real information about founders, headquarters, or how they'd acquired such an extensive content library so quickly. On the screen, David was doing exactly what I was doing, researching StreamVault on his laptop. The camera showed his screen, and I could see the same search results I was looking at, the same dead-end companies, the same lack of information. I slammed the laptop shut and turned off the TV, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. Over the next few days, I found myself analyzing every show, every recommendation. A cooking show featured recipes using only the ingredients currently in my refrigerator. A nature documentary focused on the specific species of spider that had been living in my bathroom corner for weeks. A true crime series covered a case that perfectly matched a nightmare I'd had as a child. The shows weren't just personalized, they were impossible. Too specific, too detailed, too perfectly tailored to not just my interests but my actual life, my actual experiences, my actual fears. I decided to test it. I ordered Chinese food from a restaurant I'd never tried before, choosing the most obscure dishes on the menu. Then I waited to see what StreamVault would recommend. The next morning, a new show appeared in my queue. Szechuan Nights, a drama about a Chinese-American family running a restaurant. The first episode featured a character ordering exactly what I'd ordered the night before, down to the extra spicy sauce and the fortune cookie message that had made me laugh. Your future is written in the stars, but the ink is still wet. I started keeping a journal, documenting every strange coincidence, every impossible connection. The evidence was overwhelming, but it was also completely insane. How could a streaming service be producing content specifically for me? The logistics alone were impossible. The writing, filming, editing, uploading. Some of the shows referenced things that had happened just hours before. Unless they weren't being filmed at all, the thought hit me like ice water. What if the shows weren't recorded? What if they were being generated somehow, created in real time based on data they were collecting about me? But that was even more impossible. The production values were too high, the acting too nuanced, the writing too sophisticated. I decided to dig deeper into my viewing history. StreamVault's interface was sleek but simple, too simple. There were no options to see when shows were added to the platform, no information about cast or crew, no user reviews. It was as if the shows existed in a vacuum, created and consumed in isolation. That's when I found the folder. I was backing up my computer when I noticed a directory I didn't recognize. SV Content Cache. Inside were hundreds of video files with names like SAR APT04 Final and DAV Dig E02 Render. The file sizes were enormous, and the timestamps showed they'd been created over the past 2 months. I opened one at random. It was an episode of The Apartment Next Door, but not one I'd watched yet. In this episode, Sarah was examining her computer, finding mysterious files in a hidden directory. She was looking at video files with cryptic names, files that showed her own life being played back to her like a television show. My vision blurred. This wasn't a show about someone like me. This was a show about me. The apartment on screen was my apartment, filmed from angles that should have been impossible. The woman playing Sarah wasn't an actress who resembled me. She was me, somehow, moving and speaking and living my life while I watched. I fast-forwarded through the episode. Sarah was discovering the same things I was discovering, feeling the same growing horror, making the same desperate connections. But she was also doing things I hadn't done yet. In the episode, she tried to leave her apartment, but the door wouldn't open. She called the police, but the phone lines were dead. She screamed for help, but no sound came from her throat. The episode ended with Sarah sitting in front of her computer, watching a show about a woman who was watching a show about herself, trapped in an infinite loop of observation and performance. I tried to close the file, but my computer had frozen. The screen showed me, staring directly into the camera with eyes full of terror and understanding. Her mouth moved, but there was no sound. She was trying to tell me something, warn me about something. The screen went black. When it came back on, I was looking at StreamVault's main interface. A new show had appeared in my recommendations. The viewer, the description read, "A woman discovers that her life is not her own, that her choices are not her choices, that her reality is nothing more than content to be consumed. Starring you." I clicked on it before I could stop myself. The show opened with me, sitting at my computer, clicking on a show called The Viewer. It was a perfect loop, a mirror reflecting into another mirror, creating an infinite corridor of screens and watchers and performances. I could see myself watching myself watch myself, each iteration slightly different, slightly wrong. In one version, I had a scar on my cheek that I'd never gotten. In another, my apartment had different furniture. In a third, I was older, grayer, with eyes that had seen too much. They were all me, but they were also all different people, different versions of a life being lived and relived and performed for an audience I couldn't see. I realized that I wasn't the only viewer, I was also the viewed. Somewhere, someone else was watching my story unfold, seeing my horror and confusion as entertainment. And they were probably just discovering that their own life was also a show, their own choices just plot points in someone else's narrative. The episodes kept playing. I watched myself try to leave my apartment, but the door was locked from the outside. I watched myself call for help, but my phone had no signal. I watched myself scream, but the sound was muted, turned into background noise for someone else's viewing pleasure. I tried to turn off the computer, but the power button didn't work. I tried to unplug it, but the cord wouldn't come free from the wall. The show kept playing, showing me futures I hadn't lived yet, choices I hadn't made yet, fears I hadn't faced yet. In one episode, I stopped eating, trying to break the cycle through starvation. But food appeared in my refrigerator anyway, and I found myself eating without choosing to, my body moving according to someone else's script. In another episode, I tried to break my computer with a hammer, but the hammer bounced off the screen harmlessly, and the computer kept playing, kept showing me versions of myself trying and failing to escape. The worst episode showed me accepting it. In that version, I sat calmly in front of the screen, watching my life play out with detached interest, as if I were observing a stranger. I had given up fighting, given up trying to distinguish between choice and performance, between reality and content. That version of me looked directly into the camera and spoke. The secret is that there is no secret. There is no conspiracy, no evil corporation, no malevolent algorithm. There's just the simple fact that everything is content, everyone is both viewer and viewed, and the only choice we have is whether to watch ourselves with horror or with acceptance. I don't know how long I've been sitting here now. Time doesn't seem to work the same way when your life is a show, when your present is someone else's past and your future is already recorded, filed away in directories with cryptic names. Sometimes I catch glimpses of my viewers in the black screen between episodes, faces in the reflection, eyes wide with the same horror I felt when I first understood. They're discovering their own impossible shows, their own perfect recommendations, their own lives packaged as entertainment. I want to warn them, but I can't speak outside the script. I want to help them escape, but I never found a way out myself. All I can do is play my part, live my episodes, and hope that somewhere in the infinite loop of viewers and viewed, someone finds a way to turn off the screen. The next episode is starting now. In this one, I'm going to finish writing this story, post it online, and wait to see if anyone believes me. The description says it's a horror story about a streaming service that makes shows specifically for individual viewers. But you already knew that, didn't you? After all, you're watching.